Hello students, how are you? Okay, this is Mahesh Toraskar and you are in Maestro Academy, right? We are learning moving charges and magnetism. This lesson is very interesting. This is the first lecture of the lesson. You will slowly understand the details about this lesson. Okay, now this is the fourth lesson in the book. So it is assumed that you know the concept of electric field and all the concepts of the electricity for learning this lesson, right? This is entirely about magnetism, but it is related to electricity, obviously. Let us start with this Oersted experiment first. Okay, before that I will tell you something. See, why they said is moving charges. When the charges are moving, when the charges are in motion, they produce magnetic field, they produce magnetism. But when they are still, when they don't move, they do not produce magnetic effect, right? So only a charge in motion produces magnetic field. A charge not in motion produces only electric field. Okay. But a charge in motion will produce magnetic field as well as it already has an electric field, right? The charge always has an electric field going into outside it if it is a plus charge and going inside it if it is a minus charge. So charge in motion having certain velocity will have magnetic as well as electric field. Whereas a charge in still which is having V equal to 0 will not have a magnetic field. This will be equal to 0. It will have only electric field. And you know about the direction of electric field. Okay. They originate from the positive charge and then they terminate in the negative charge. Okay. This is the basic thing about the moving charge, right? Now coming back to the first point, Oersted experiment. Okay. What is Oersted experiment? What is done is, Oersted has made a simple experiment where he has connected a wire like this. Some potential is given to the wire. So now the current starts flowing in the wire in one direction. And he brought one magnetic compass. I have it here. Just to show you here. See, observe that the deflection, let us take this section of the wire. The deflection of magnetic needle takes place when the current starts flowing, going through the wire, right? So, one other thing that he observed is, when you take it away, the deflection reduces. Say it is on this side. It becomes less and it is more towards the straight. Okay. The normal is straight. Okay. So, there is a deflection here. It reduces as you take it away. This is what he observed. Okay. Understood? That means there is some magnetic field around the wire, right? Okay. Then what he observed, when you reverse the polarity of the battery, say now the current will start in the opposite direction. What is observed is again the same thing takes place, but this time the deflection is on the reverse side. Okay. As you go away, again it reduces, and far further away it becomes very low. Okay. But this time it is in the reverse direction. This is the observation. There is another observation. What is observed is, if you increase the cell, okay, increase the cell, okay, you make it very high, so that now the current is higher. Now the current is increased because it was one cell on the setting. The higher potential, the current is increased. Again, it is observed that the same thing happens, but this time the deflection is more than before. It takes place a little bit on a higher degree. Okay, you have to take it quite right on top to become square. The meaning is that the deflection is stronger, which indicates that the field is more strong when the current is also increased. So somewhere the magnetic field is related to current, right? Somewhere it is related to current, sorry. Somewhere the magnetic field is related to current. So this is also another indication. See, few things are found out. So this, from here, we have understood that the magnetic field depends on certain factors. One is that it depends on the motion of the charge. It depends on the strength of the current. Okay. And there's another thing. Now, if you say a charge which is kept in the electric field, let us say this is the electric field, right here, plus to minus. Okay, these are the two poles of the electric field, and you place a charge inside it. This charge, say it is a plus charge, plus K. This charge will be pushed on this side, right? Because plus will repel it, minus will attract it, and it will move from the same direction as this. So that means the force that is acting on this charge will act in the same direction of the electric field, right? This is in case of electric field. What happens in the magnetic field? Here, this is a magnetic field. Now, the still charge, if it is kept over here, Q, okay, and there is no velocity, it is not moving, so consider V is equal to 0, then the force does not act on it. I am talking about the magnetic force due to magnetic field. and this is positive electric field, right? We are talking about the positive magnetic field. Now, on this charge, the force will not act. Why? Because its velocity is 0, and we know that the force acts on the charge only when its velocity is something else. So let us see it has got certain velocity. It's not equal to 0. Say its velocity is in this direction. Say the charge is moving in this direction. Say this is V. Now the force will act on it. Because it is in motion, now the force will act on it. Okay. Because this V and B are there, and they are the vectors, the force will act on it as a cross product. See, the direction of this force will be in the direction perpendicular to both of them. It will be like this, right hand rule. Take your V, first curl the fingers from V towards V. Wherever your thumb is pointing, that is the direction of the force, right? So it's a perpendicular to both. Inside the board, the force is going. Right? So this is nothing but cross product. So force that is acting is nothing but it's a cross product of V and V. Okay. Actually, the force is given as F is equal to Q V cross V. This is the force that is of magnetic field. Okay. This is the force that acts due to. It's a cross product of V and V multiplied by the charge. So we know that force depends on this, the strength of the magnetic field, because stronger is the magnetic field, more force will act. Okay. And if it is moving faster, again the more force will act. Also depends on the charge. There is one more aspect of this force. Other thing is that if this charge is negative, then the force will act in the opposite direction. Okay, this becomes, suppose this is negative, minus Q V B cross. If Q is equal to negative. If it is acting this way when Q is positive, okay, that it will act in the opposite direction if Q is negative, right? So it acts in both ways. It is acting perpendicular to the plane of V and B, right? So this is the direction of the force. So these are the basic concept about the force due to magnetic field. Whereas force due to electric field we already know. Now what is the similarity between electric field and magnetic field? Both are vector quantities, right? Both are vector quantities, and both have got, even if they move in a curved path, every point on the curved path which is tangential gives the direction of the field. It is applicable to E as well as B. It applies to both of them, right? So this is the basic thing, and the difference is that the forces act in a different direction. In case of electric field, it is along the electric field, and in case of magnetic field, it is perpendicular to V and B. So these are the basic differences, right? Now, the units of B is it's given as Tesla. Okay, units of magnetic field is Tesla, right? And 1 Tesla is equal to 10 to the power 4 Gauss. Gauss is the smaller unit, so 1/10,000 Gauss is equal to 1 Tesla. Right? It's a smaller unit, so if you want to measure in a smaller unit, you can do this. Okay. And it is also the unit of 1 Tesla is also equal to 1 Newton per meter square. Or Newton per ampere meter. Newton per ampere meter. This is another unit of 1 Tesla. This is a force due to magnetic field. Okay, this is the unit of force due to magnetic field. Right? Now, how you arrive at this? Because we have F is equal to ILB. Okay, it's also scientific, that's okay. But this is F is equal to also given by, we know no force depends on the strength of the current flowing through the conductor. It also depends on the length of the conductor and the magnetic field itself. So this is a force. From here you know that B is equal to F upon IL. That's nothing but Newton per ampere meter. So from there you get this. Right? So this is another unit for magnetic field. Right? Okay. Going to the next topic. I hope you followed these 2 points. Right? Now let us understand the force acting on. Okay, this Lorentz force. Understand this. Lorentz force is what? The Lorentz force is this. The total force. The total force acting on a charge. This charge is there in both in the electric field also and in the magnetic field also. So the total force is acting on the charge, say plus Q, is the sum total. You know principle of superposition. According to that principle, it is the total force that is acting on charge. This is what is Fe plus Fm equal. Force due to electric field, force due to magnetic field. Now Fe is what you know? QE. You already know it. It's given in the. It's taught in the earlier lesson, right? It is the charge into the electric field, and this is given by Q into V cross B. Okay, this is a cross product of velocity and magnetic field. This is the two forces which are acting on the charge which is moving in the electric as well as magnetic field, right? So this force is called as Lorentz force. The combined force is called as the Lorentz force. The force that is acting on this charge is called as Lorentz force, right? So that's all about Lorentz force. There's not much to there's not much detail about this Lorentz force. This is the only information. Okay, the next part. I'm going to the force on a current carrying conductor. Okay, let us understand this. Now, suppose you have a conductor placed in a magnetic field, right? You have a magnetic field here, and the conductor is say placed in an angle like this. Say it is placed at an angle theta, right? And say the length of this conductor be L. Let L be the length. Say length of conductor. Length of conductor, right? AB, area of cross section of the conductor, right? And then say, now we say that it is, the current is, say this I be the direction of current, I is current through conductor, right? So if this is the current, now you tell me which side the electrons moving? They are moving this side. Obviously, they are moving in this direction. Okay. The direction of electrons, or the motion of electron is opposite to the direction of the flow of current, right? So now you understand this. When this current carrying conductor is placed in the magnetic field, some force acts on it. Some particular force must act on it, right? So that force we are trying to derive. What is that? How to calculate that force which is acting on the magnetic force on current carrying conductor? Okay, we are going to do it. Now, if you can recollect, certain thing we have learned in our 10th standard. You have learned this part. Now, slip rings, and then it is coming from this. Yes, it's coming like this. Are you familiar with this? A, B, C, D, C, and this is my north pole and this is south pole. If these are the conditions, and this is the coil which is carrying current, okay, and placed inside a uniform magnetic field, we have seen that this coil starts rotating, right? How does it rotate? Some force either pushes it or pulls it depending on the current flow, right? So the current, your magnetic field is in this direction. Current is perpendicular to magnetic field, so the force will be automatically perpendicular to both of them, right? It is given by Fleming's left hand rule. So according to left hand rule, if you calculate, it will be going inside, right? So that is how the rotation of this wire takes place. Okay. So this is the same concept. What I am trying to tell you is this AB, the conductor AB, is where the force is acting, no? Because it is placed in the perpendicular fields of B and the current, right? So similarly, it works over here. See, this is kept at particular angle. If it is kept at particular angle, some force has to act. Okay. Now understand this. We have seen that force that acts on this conductor, no? This force does not act on the whole conductor. It actually acts on the charges. It doesn't act on the mass of the conductor. This force acts on the charges. So let E is the charge. We know it is E. So E is the charge of electron. The charges that are present in this are Ne, no? Ne. N is the integer fundamental charge, right? So this is the charge. How many of these electrons are there? We have to see. N is number of electrons per unit volume. Let N be the number of electrons per unit volume. This is per unit volume. So how do I get a total number of electrons for that particular section of the rod? Okay. That means we have to calculate the volume of that. So let's say, what is the volume? Say, you know L into A. So the volume of conductor will be L into A. Length into area of cross section is a cylinder, right? If you have a cylinder like this, it's L into A gives the volume of the cylinder, right? So we are considering the cylinder, so we get L into A gives the volume. So volume times number of electrons per unit volume. So N total number of electrons on the conductor is equal to NLA. Total number of electrons is N times the volume of the conductor, right? So okay, next, total charge, let us see, total charge on the conductor. Total charge on the conductor is these many electrons multiplied by the fundamental charge. This is my fundamental charge, right? This is the fundamental charge of each electron, right? So it is NELA. I wrote E in between. Okay, I can write it like this. NLA times E. Okay, number of electrons into the charge, right? Okay. Now we know one thing. We know that the force that is acting is equal to F is equal to Q into, that is B cross B. This is what we have. Okay. Now understand. This V is a velocity of electron. This velocity of electron is nothing but, V is nothing but drift velocity. We have seen the drift velocity of the electron with which the electrons get dragged into the conductor. Okay, so that is the velocity that, because the potential is established, so it is, the electrons are moving, so we can call it as EV. Okay, so we call this as the drift velocity. Now we replace it over, so I can say, we can write it as a scalar Q V D. So we write it as Q V D to D. Okay. Now, so not dot, it's a multiplication. So it's a magnitude multiplication. Sin theta. Because it's a cross product, so I write sin theta. Because we are a cross product, so I write sin theta. So what do you get finally? Replace this VD. You have earlier learned something. I is equal to, in current electricity lesson, VD, E and A, right? So you replace this I is equal to VD in V and A here, and the charge is nothing but, this is the total charge. So also we have Q is equal to NLAE. This is the total charge now. So this Q is nothing but a total charge, and this VD is here. We get VD is, we can replace it over here. Therefore, write this side so that you know. Therefore, VD is equal to I upon V and A, right? And Q is equal to NLAE. So replace both, you get this NLAE into I upon V and A sin theta, right? Okay, fine. Okay, so you get this gets cancelled, this is gone, this is gone, this is gone, and this is gone. Okay, and okay, I forgot to write B. I was wondering what I forgot. So this is B sin theta. So finally you get Fm is equal to I L B sin theta. So what you get here is ILB sin theta, which is nothing but, if you go to say this LB sin theta, if you get LB sin theta, which means it is nothing but cross product of L cross B, and L is a length vector. It's a length vector. A length vector is a vector which is acting along the length of it, and this theta is the angle that is made by this length to B, right? So this is my derivation for the magnetic force that is acting on the conductor when it is placed at a particular angle with a theta. Now imagine this. Suppose this conductor is placed parallel to the magnetic field. What will be the force acting on it? Zero, because my theta is zero, right? The force that is acting on the conductor which is placed parallel will be zero. On the other side, if this theta becomes 90, that is straight, it is placed straight, then the force acting will be maximum. So we can write it like this. Then I can write, I can say F is equal to, Fm is equal to 0 if theta is equal to 0, and Fm is equal to F max. There is no other higher force because the sine angle toggles between +1 and -1, right? So that is maximum. If theta is equal to 90 degrees, F max equal to ILB. This is the force. These are the three magnitudes. So finally, the force that is acting on the conductor depends on the current that is going through it, which we already seen. Length of the conductor, that is why we take a loop size, the loop we take, the length of the conductor, okay, on which it is acting, and the strength of the magnetic field that is acting upon between the two poles, right, where it is placed. Now here, if you go to see, this is the way the conductor behaves when it is pressed. Now, what's the direction of this force? It is along length and this. If you go to see, you have to, again it's a vector quantity, which is, it is a cross product of length and B, no, length and the magnetic field. So you take a length along the direction of the, actually see, this is BD, right? BD is opposite to A, okay. So you have to take along BD towards B, okay, for a particular length along BD towards B, and then it will be pushed inside. The conductor will be pushed inside, right? Okay, now coming to the next part. Motion on a charge in a magnetic field, right? We are considering a charge which is moving inside a magnetic field, right? So let us consider how the force will act on that charge. Let us consider this. The magnetic field is directed inside the board, right? This is directed inside the board, and there is charge which is going. Say it goes random at any velocity. Say I have got something here. I can show you. Say the charge is going like this. This is say the velocity of the charge, and this is the vertical, the horizontal component of the velocity along B, and this is the vertical component of the velocity perpendicular to B. Now my B is directed inside, right? So this becomes a parallel. Look here, this becomes a parallel component of the velocity. This is my velocity. This is the velocity in which the charge is going. Any way that the charge may go. This is the vertical component of the velocity. Now what will happen? See. This, let us understand the vertical component of the velocity with which it is going, right? This is my Q, right? Now if you go to see, some force is acting because the charge is in motion, it goes perpendicular to this direction. So it doesn't go perpendicular, we have taken the vertical component. So what is the direction of this force? You see this, you take curl your fingers from B towards B. B is inside, right? So from B towards B. This is the direction of the force, right? So the force will direct it inside like this. I mean towards the left side. Now because of this force, this is the Fm. This force will make this charge to not take a straight path but take a curved path. Constantly it is acting, right? It acts constantly. So the charge doesn't eventually take a straight path, it will take a curved path, right? So it is over here. Now at this instant, the velocity is like this, right? It is moving here. Now if you consider this as the velocity, then again at this point, what is the force, the direction of the force? B this side, B this side, B cross B is downward. So we know that at every instant, the force is directed, it's directed towards, this is B, this is B, this is my Fm, this is the Fm. So every time the force is directed inside, towards the center, right? So eventually, what is the path of the charge? Circular path. Now this circular path is only because of vertical component. So vertical component of velocity will give circular path. The vertical component of the velocity will result a circular path of it, but it's not going that way. The charge is going at random in any direction. Okay, we have only resolved it, right? Now we have to consider the horizontal component also. Let us say the horizontal component. Now horizontal component, as we have seen, it goes along the direction of B. Now the charge which is going along the direction of B will have theta is equal to 0. When theta is equal to 0, eventually Fm is equal to 0. We have seen it from here. When theta is equal to 0, Fm is also equal to 0. So because of this, there is no force acting on the charge which is on that component of the velocity because of which it is going horizontally. It goes in both directions, right? Cross means it takes both the components, right? So it means that the charge will move straight with whatever velocity is resolved. Say it is the v that is resolved, this small velocity with which it goes on the horizontally, and this large velocity with which it goes vertically. So this will create a circular motion of it, and horizontal velocity along v will create a linear motion of it. So horizontal component, say along v, it's along v. Along v will create linear motion, linear path. Why? Because it will not act, the force will not act on it. The charge will keep going because nobody is pushing it, neither pulling it. Okay. But a vertical one, yes, it is pulling. The force is pulling it, making it round. It doesn't allow, vertically it doesn't allow to go. So if it is going like this, the charge will not go like that. It will just take a round path, but it will go straight. It will go like this eventually. Okay, it will go spiral and inside the moon, right? So ultimately the resultant path is helical path. It takes a helical path along the edge of a spring, right? Helix is the spring, right? Just the shape of the spring. So if you consider a spring going inside, you can consider the path of the charge which is going along the spring inside. So it's a combined motion of circular as well as linear, translatory motion and circular motion together makes it a helical motion. This is the path of the charge when it goes in the magnetic field, right? Now this has got two things, the radius of the helix. Let us see how to calculate the radius of that helix. Now we should know that it goes in a circular path, so we'll write a circle separately so that you understand what is the radius. Now look at this. Okay, this is the circle. We are considering only the circular aspect of it, both ways. Okay, first we will consider the circle. See, of this circle, even a helix, if you look it like that, it looks like a circle now. So we are calculating the radius of that helix. So say this is the radius. Now if you see the charge which is going along the circle is acted by force inside. We have seen on top. It is always acted by force inside. Something that goes in circle and the force is pulling it inside, what do we call that force? The force which acts on a particle which is moving along a circle. That force is nothing but centripetal force. So centripetal force. Right? The centripetal force is that which is pulling it towards itself. Okay. Now, this centripetal force is nothing but the force that is acting the electromagnetic force. The electromagnetic force is given by F. This is equal to Fm. So you know what is Fm? Fm is equal to QVD, which is nothing but mv square by r. This is the centripetal force for a circulatory motion. Centripetal force is given by this equation, mv square by r. And m is the mass of the particle, v is the velocity of the particle, r is the radius of the particle. Now using this expression you can define the radius. What is radius? This one kills, this one, so only one remains. So r is equal to mv upon q. This is the radius of the particle of the charge which is going around the helical circle, right? So that's the radius. Now understand what is the time period. For that we know that omega is equal to 2 pi by t. This is all about circulatory motion, you must be aware of it. Angular velocity is equal to 2 pi by t. Okay. It's also called as angular frequency, the distance traveled upon the time taken. This is already world known thing, right? Okay. Now we also know that v is equal to r omega. Okay. Linear velocity is radius times angular velocity. We also know this. Now we know what is r. R is here. So replace it. So we get V is equal to mv upon qv into omega. So we know what is omega also. We can find omega. V cancels. So we get omega is equal to qv upon m. Okay, this is the angular frequency with which the particle goes. Right. So replace omega with 2 pi by t. What you get? So 2 pi by t is equal to qv by qv. What I wrote qb by m, no, I should have written this. Okay, qb by m is angular velocity, so this becomes 2 pi by t is equal to qb by m. From here you get t. So this gives us t is equal to 2 pi m on qb. This is the time period. So from here we can tell you, we can find out what is the frequency. What is the frequency? So here mu is equal to qb upon 2 pi m. See here we can make out, right? If this gives the direction of this gives the time period of the helix, the time in which the helix take around one rotation, and this is the frequency. This is the frequency of the helix. So this is the overall picture about how a charge moves in the magnetic field, right? So we are going for the next part. Let's try this. To know about this motion of charge in combined field, we must have some idea about the vectors, right? So we have two fields. Combined field means magnetic field also, electric field also, and something else, and it all is incomplete. Let us say this is the direction of the magnetic field, right? A perpendicular to that is the direction of, this is the direction of the electric field. This is the magnetic field. And this, say perpendicular to it, is the direction of the velocity of the charge. See, the charge is going in this direction. At the same time, the magnetic field and electric field are perpendicular, and the motion of the charge is perpendicular to both of them, right? So this is around I cap. Vector I cap is a, you know this, I cap is a unit vector. This is say j cap, this is k cap. So we have 3 unit vectors. So we have this vector, E vector is equal to E magnitude I cap. And then we have B vector is equal to B magnitude j cap, and B vector is equal to B magnitude k cap. So if you are aware of vectors, you must be aware of all these things. A vector is equal to its magnitude into unit vector, right? So let us understand something. Now, when a charge is moving in this direction, okay. Now, if the charge is moving in this direction, there are two forces. We know there are two forces acting on it. Your Lorentz force. It is what? F net is what? F net is QE plus QV cross V, right? These are the forces that are acting on the charge when it is motion. One due to electric field, one due to magnetic field. Now this direction is in the same direction of electric field. So this will be in the same direction. Okay, FPL. It is in the same direction of electric field. If this is electric field, the force that is acting is also in the direction of I write here FP, right? So it is in the same direction of electric field. Now if you see V cross P, this gives the direction of the force due to magnetic field. So I will write here Fm. V and B. V is towards you. Understand this? V is towards you. And then you have to curl your finger like that and take it on there. V cross B is opposite this side, on this side. So the direction is this way. And right here, so I write the right then V. This is the direction of Fm. So this is directed opposite. So we have seen that the force is directed opposite. It's in the reverse direction. It has to minus. Here also we get minus. How do we get this minus? I tell you how. This is E, this is I cap, and this is J cap. This is J cap, and this is B is K cap, right? This is K cap. B is K cap. This is J cap. This is K cap and J cap. Now, if you understand the cross product of vectors, then you will understand that this is Q E I cap plus Q K cap into J cap. If you don't know, I will write here I cap into J cap is equal to K cap. So write I J K I J K. I write it shortcut. See, I cap into J cap is K cap. J cap into K cap is I cap. I cap into K cap into I cap is J cap, right? But if I say K cap into J cap, K into J reverse is I negative. So if I write J cap into K cap, is to revise it a bit now. J cap into K cap is I cap, but K cap into J cap equal to minus I cap. The product of k and j is negative of I, right? So this is all about vector. That's why I told you you must be aware of the vector before understanding this concept. Okay. Now here, because see, k cap into j cap, you're going backward, that gives you minus I. If you're going forward, j into k, you go forward, you get plus I. Same thing for everything. K into I, k cap into I cap gives you plus j cap. But k I cap into k cap gives you minus j cap. You come behind, it becomes minus. Go forward, it becomes plus. There is another way also you can do it by determinant. Only one method I told you, right? Okay, so you get it as minus I. So finally we get it like this. This is nothing but V B minus. So I write it over here only minus I cap. Right? And we can see here only. We can see this along I cap only. This is minus I cap. Minus I cap. It's acting in the minus direction. Okay, same thing is depicted here. So ultimately it is Q E minus VB I cap. E minus VB I cap. So this is the net force that is acting on the charge which is moving in the combined field of electric and magnetic field which are perpendicular to each other. Okay, and it is moving perpendicularly to this. Okay, so we have a concept like this. Imagine this is the, say here we have electric field. So the electric field is directed from plus to minus. This is the direction of electric field. And this is the direction of your magnetic field. It is going inside. Okay. Now electric field and magnetic field both are perpendicular to each other, right? Both the fields are perpendicular to each other. Now imagine this is the case, electric and magnetic field. Now you are taking a charge which is q with a velocity v, right? You are again taking the charge which is in direction perpendicular to both of them. The third direction, this is perpendicular to both of them. Now you see this setup. In this setup, it will exactly relate to this equation. So all the three vectors are in direction perpendicular to each other. Similar is the case. Now look here what happens. Suppose you have a condition where when E is equal to VB, when E is equal to VB, you very well know that F net is equal to 0. When they are equal, F net is equal to 0. So, converse to it, if I want to say that if you want F net to be equal to 0, or if you do not want any force to be experienced by this charge, then you have to maintain E equal to VB, or you have to maintain V is equal to E upon V. The same thing. Okay. Which means that if you don't want any force to fall on the charge when it is moving, then this V must be equal to E upon V, right? So, if you don't want any force to this charge to be moving or to get deflected, then you must or you want it to go straight like this, then you must maintain that V as E upon V. So, you can control this E here and B here. The B and E can control in such a way that velocity is maintained like this at this ratio, then that particular charge or of that particular velocity will not get deflected. If this is not equal, wherever V is not equal to E, that charge will go here. When it is not equal to E, charge it will go V is not equal to E upon V, so E upon V. V is not equal to E upon V. Those will be deflected, and only that charge where E upon V is equal to V, that charge will not be deflected. The same concept can be used in this. This is nothing but velocity selector. Okay. So velocity selector is that device where you can select the velocity of the charge, so that if you want the charge to go at a particular velocity without deflection, that can be calculated and made to pass through this velocity selector using this concept, right? So students, we have learned all these aspects of the lesson. This is only a small part of it. The more details are there further. Biot-Savart's law, Biot-Savart's law, and all other details are coming in my next video. Keep watching, keep subscribing, subscribe, tell your friends, and do like my channel. Okay, so if I am able to give you better explanation, I will try my best. Okay, so thanks for watching. Thank you very much.